Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be talking about Boomy pros and cons, as well as the best comps to run with as Boomy if you're trying to push. Coming from someone who's over 3,800 IO as Boomy, um, I've gotten this probably the most out of people that are trying to push Boomy or trying to get into Boomy. So we're going to start off with the pros first. The first pro is their raid buff. They have the best raid buff of the game. It's 3% versatility. Fucking pretty insane. Um, they have A tier AoE in my opinion, and they have S tier single target. They have great util, which includes B-Res or Rebirth, Decurse, Poison Dispel, Ursol's Vortex, Typhoon, so like a knockback, the in-cap Disorienting Roar, and Soothe, which that's like a huge kit, to be honest, to be able to use for your group, and especially for yourself. I'm not even going to include Bear Form and Util. It's just Bear Form's pretty crazy as Util as well. And then that kind of leads into super tanky versus singular big hits. Boomy is not tanky, super tanky in general, but against like a singular big hit, for example, the third boss of Avatar Academy, I am super healthy as Boomy. I'm the healthiest person in the group on that fight every single time. Like when the orbs go out, when the expulsion goes out, like I'm chilling every single time. And then the last pro is that it fits into any comp. Um, we're going to get into that a little bit deeper in the cons. I'll actually start touching on it now. It's at the bottom of the cons, but it does not add to most or any comps. So it fits into any comp. Like it's not going to do, particularly worse without, a Resto Shaman or without a Demon Hunter or a Mage or whatever. Like no one thing is going to make it, make or break Boomy's overall performance in the key. But with saying that, it doesn't really add anything to any comps, which we'll get into. But in general, it's also very squishy. I know I said it's super tanky versus singular big hits. That's why I emphasize singular big hits. In general, it's super squishy. For example, if you try to soak the second boss beams of Skyreach, you are getting fucking annihilated like the whole time. The only way you're not, you can bark like every third beam, but generally, like, unless you're sitting in bear form the whole time, which if you're sitting in bear form the whole time, fuck, that shit is bricked. You cannot be sitting in bear form for like a long amount of time. You should sit in bear form 100% if you need to live something or to maybe like let your healer catch up, but you should not be sitting in bear form for like an extended period of time. At that point, you're bricking either an entire eclipse or an entire incarn, and it's just kind of wasted. It doesn't always have great AoE and burst. I put that it has A tier AoE and S tier single target, but most of that is through burst windows. That's where the problem kind of is that it's not like one of these specs that's always going to have a lot of damage. Which kind of leads to the next point. See, your cooldowns, your offensives are not make or break. Like even with Incarn and with Veil Gores up on my Boomy, I'm still gonna do probably less damage in a pull than a Devourer or an Unholy DK and like a demo lock. That doesn't mean I'm gonna do bad damage. It just means like I'm not S tier. And that leads into it's the worst spec of Druid. Unfortunately, there's 4 specs, and out of the 4, it's the worst one. This basically means that its raid buff or utility isn't useful anymore if you have any other Druid either in the group or that you could get in the group. Because since you'd rather have any other spec of Druid, that can do the exact same things, then it's kind of useless if you already have one. For example, Feral can do everything that Boomy can do, but it does more damage and is tankier, so it's kind of like a no-brainer. Resto Druid is arguably one of the best healers in the game right now, and it can again use all that util. And now to make it even worse, Guardian is now arguably the best tank in the game as well, so you still now even further don't need that util. Now again, there's classes or specs that it's like, oh, Brewmaster, Mistweaver in a comp, and it's fine, but it's because they're performing at a higher level than any other tank / healer, so them overlapping on raid buffs and util doesn't really matter as much because it's just they're so strong, whereas Boomy doesn't have that. And then DPS overall, it's good. I'm never like doing terrible damage, but it's good. It's not great, which I'll show you right now. Actually, I have some logs open. Again, it's good. It's not great. Like, I'm going to show you a log from a 19 win runner that for example, we timed this key. And as you can see, at 92 parse, the Paladin didn't have a great key, but he 23 parse, and I only beat him by 14k, not even 13.5k DPS. Like, that's a massive. I 92 parse and he 23 parse, and I only beat him by 14k DPS. It's like it's pretty bad. And Paladin is really good, but it's not like the best thing in the game, but it's really good. Another example, I'll show this 19 Avatar. So I 81 parsed the Warlock and Devour Demon Hunter 60 and 62 parse, and again they both did like the same exact damage, and I did 16,000 less DPS than them, and I purple parse and they blue parse. So it's like, this is kind of just to show, like, you can play the best you can play, which again I'll show you this Magisters I did where I felt like I had a really solid key. I think I died one time in this key to like an interrupt not being kicked, so I think I got bolted to death or something. So technically it could have been even better for me, but this is to show you, me and the Demon Hunter parsed the exact same. We both 95 parse, and he beat me by what is that, 30,000 DPS. Like, we arguably, statistically, we played as good as the other person. We both 95 parse, and he literally gapped the shit out of me. Like, 30k more DPS is a fucking lot of DPS. And the Warlock, even worse, he parsed lower than me. Now, he still did well, he 90 parse, but he parsed lower than me, and he beat me by 35k DPS. So it's like essentially, if I 100 parse a key as Boomy, a Warlock, an Unholy DK, or a Devour Demon Hunter can do the same DPS as me if they're like 40 parsing. So it's like, they could be essentially, you have to play really, really well as Boomy. You have to play very defensively. You have to make sure you stay alive because you're squishier than Devour Demon Hunter, Demo Lock, Unholy DK, etc. So you have to play super well. Like, if you die, like, it's all for nothing. And even with playing super well, like, I'm playing super well here. I was playing super defensive. I was like going bear form for a lot of stuff just so I could live it. Because ideally you live. Like, it's like, if you don't go bear form for those 2 or 3 seconds and then you die, it's like, you should have just gone bear form, sacked 2 seconds of DPS, and then kept damaging after. But that's just my take. But that's kind of just to show off this point of the DPS overall is good. It's not great. It's good enough that you're gonna time the key if you play really well. But you have to play really well, or you're just like a piece of shit. And then that kind of leads to terrible prio damage. Boomy has awful priority damage. It either has really high single target or pretty good AoE, but it has no priority. If you're in a pack and there's 3 mobs or 4 mobs or 5 mobs, it's usually 4 or 5, and there's one that's the prio mob, let's say it has 20-30% health more than the rest, you can be hitting it. You can be hitting that one the whole time, but your rotation is you're going to Starfall instead of Star Surge 100% of the time if there's that many mobs. If you are Star Surging on that pack, you are going to be doing like tank damage. Like, especially if it's even bigger, if there's 10 mobs, whatever it is, you're going to be doing no damage at all if you're not Starfalling. You do play Star Weaver in Mythic Plus, so that does help add a little bit of prio because you're Starfalling a lot, so you're getting free Star Surges to send into the prio mob. But a free Star Surge every now and then versus a million Starfalls is not doing near enough prio damage, in my opinion. Most things will do more prio damage, and even if they don't have technically prio, they'll probably do just more damage AoE that it'll lead to them just beating you in damage anyways. But that's the pros and cons as well as the logs. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think fits in really well with a comp for Boomy. So Boomy's at the top. So you can obviously only have 2 other DPS, a tank and a healer. The main problem with Boomy is that it's not doing the same damage as Devour, Demo, Unholy, or Og. So it's not doing as much damage as them, and it doesn't have Lust. So like 3 of those get away with not being a Lust spec because they're just so good, and they're like insane. Like, their damage is crazy. Their damage profile is like usually pretty busted. And then they also are tanky. All 3 of those things, these 3 things right here, even Ret included, are like super tanky. So I'm just gonna go one by one. Devour. I'm gonna start off by actually saying that any DPS that is tanky, is a great fit for Boomy because Boomy is squishy. So you don't want your healer having to worry about multiple squishy DPS in the group. So if they only have to kind of pocket you or baby you or be like, okay, I just gotta watch the Druid, then it's, significantly easier for the key. So Devour, crazy OP. I know they just got nerfed, but I still think they're like pretty fucking insane. Their kit is crazy. They do really good damage. They are super tanky, and they also give you, the magic buff. So to me, I think Devour is probably the number one thing that you can play with. Demo Lock, again, really good. You get Hellstones, you get Warlock Gate for like skips and whatnot, and then you just have like damage all the time, and it's basically just always like it has damage available. It's a solid fit. If you could get a Lust DPS, what I've been playing a lot is these three, so Devour and Demo Lock, and then a Resto Shaman. So to me, Resto Shaman is the ideal healer because that means that you don't have to get an Og, every single time, because realistically, Og is the best Lust DPS in the game. So if I had to pick three, I would pick these three. So this would be like the ideal in my opinion. As like if I had to pick like the best comp, it'd be this. But I'm not gonna say like it has to be one thing. But if I had to say, it'd be that. I only wouldn't say Unholy because Unholy is like mega pad and like their damage is crazy, but kind of similar to Boomy, their prio isn't great. I know it's better than Boomy even because they have like Reaper's Mark and whatnot, but like it's still not great. I would even say that I prefer playing with Rep Paladins over DKs, and they fit really well into this comp too, where it's just like you get the Shaman buff from them, they get the melee buff from the Master. Um, so I think this comp feels really nice because Rep Pally, again, another thing that's super tanky, and also it could like help with dispels. They have good util kit. They could help with putting sack on someone, including either the healer or me as a Boomy. And I think they complement Boomy really well because Boomy can do a lot of AoE damage, and so can Rep Pally, but Rep Pally has like crazy priority damage, which Boomy I feel like is lacking a lot. So I think that they're a really good fit. And I think another obvious one is Og Evoker. Og fits into literally any comp in the game. I would argue that it's the most versatile thing in the game for comps because any comp can fit an Og Evoker in and it's gonna do well. And then Bear Tank, I would only put it slightly below Brew just because, again, Brew has a lot of priority damage. Bear has 0 priority damage in this new build with no Apex talents and you're just hitting 3-button rotation over and over. So you don't really ideally want to play with something like that, like when Brewmaster has, again, a lot of priority damage, especially for a tank, and you have none, essentially, as a Boomy. And then the healers, you can interchange Mistweaver and Resto Shaman. I just put Resto Shaman above Mistweaver because it has Lust. Because here's the thing, if I don't have Resto Shaman and I put in a Mistweaver, let's just say whatever tank, doesn't matter. Now I need to choose probably Og Evoker is my only choice because what else am I going to choose? Like I could choose Ellie Shaman, I could choose like one of the mage specs. They're just nowhere near as good. The problem with Ellie Shaman, which I really like playing with Ellie, is that Ellie is not that tanky. So that's what I'm saying. You don't want to have multiple things in your group that aren't that tanky. Again, just my opinion. You don't want the healer to have to be worrying about 2 other people or 2 people in the group that are like maybe need to be pocketed or just watched. And then we're gonna go to like what can work. Resto Druid, I just have it below the other 2 tanks because of what I was saying earlier. Whereas you like, if the Resto Druid's in the group, all my util is essentially useless. You rarely need multiple soothes or multiple poison dispels. Even if you need multiple poison dispels, both these tanks have poison dispels, so that doesn't matter. So they're just there. I would put them even next to this if I wasn't playing Druid, but just as specifically for Boomy. Prop Pally, I think, is really solid. I think it might even go up to here next week, depending on how crazy these buffs are. They seem pretty crazy, in my opinion, just because it complements Boomy so well, since Boomy has a 1-minute kick. Pally has a million kicks, so, it works really well. Pally can, spell bop, they can sack, they can, help a Boomy out a lot. Havoc, I would say, has everything that Devourer has, except for the damage profile. I just think it's like a not as good version of Devourer, so it's like, if you could have a Devour instead, which more people are playing Devour, why have a Havoc? I think just go with the Devour. Frost DK, I think, complements Boomy well because of the priority damage, whereas like I can do more AoE, they can do more priority. And then the rest of this basically is just like, for example, both warrior specs, both rogue specs, and then survival. It's like they're all really good. The only thing is I complement them with my verse buff, but they don't help me with anything. So it's like they don't buff me anyway. Their physical damage buffs and whatnot, and I don't get anything from them. Their util and their kit doesn't really complement mine, and I don't really complement theirs either. I'm not a Pharaoh Druid. If I was a Pharaoh Druid, it'd be like, oh, okay, we complement each other. They get verse buff and Druid util, and in exchange, Pharaoh Druid gets melee buffs and whatnot. But there's really no complementing each other, but it can work. I've done keys from like 17, 18, 19 with these comps. Ellie is also insane. The only thing is what I said earlier. It's just kind of squishy. So having Ellie, it's not as squishy as Boomy, I think, but having Ellie and Boomy in the same group in like a 19 or a 20 especially is probably going to be rough. And then less than ideal. Frost Mage, I was playing with a Frost Mage at the beginning, but then once we got to like 16-ish, 17, 18, now it's like, okay, now we're playing two very squishy things in the group. Frost Mage Mage in general is very squishy. So it's just kind of like what I was saying earlier. You don't want too many things that are too squishy in the group, or it can kind of just, fuck with the healer, add more stress to him, and maybe he can't keep both of us alive. And then everything else here, again, Druid, for the reasons I explained, is not ideal. Windwalker, not ideal. They don't buff or complement Druid. And then Shadow Priest, I would say Shadow Priest is on a similar wavelength as Boomy right now, where it's like, it's this thing that's kind of squishy. It's tankier than Boomy in my opinion, but it's like kind of squishy. Does pretty good damage, but isn't anything exceptional, and then also has a very long kick. So anything with a very long kick is just like not great, because if you have 45-second kick and a minute kick, you're probably fucked in certain dungeons where you need that, especially because Prop Pally is not being played. And then you can try it if you want to, LOL. Dude, if you're playing any of these specs, I would be surprised. Aflock would be terrible because they have no single target or prio. Sub Rogue, I haven't even played with a Sub Rogue in anything above a 15. Presovoker, same thing, in like above a 15. I haven't even seen a Devour this entire expansion. And then Fire Mage, I played with one in like a 17 or 18, and they were like permanently dead. Like they were literally floor POV. Same with Arcane Mage. Marksman Hunter, I've only seen in raid. I've played with a few in like 16s and 17s, but nothing like no 19s, 20s. And then Desterlock, I haven't even seen a single one in keys. The rest of these, like tanks and healers, I just haven't played with, nor do I think it matters right now. I don't think anybody's playing these at a high level, besides there's like one or two of Blood DK, there's one or two of Vengeance, and there's like one or two Prout Warriors, something like that. But I don't even see any Prout Warriors like applying to my, like, Prout Warriors, Vengeance Demon Hunters, or Blood DKs applying to my 20s. And vice versa, I don't see them in queue. So that's basically wrapping it up. Back to, I guess, the pros and cons. This is what I think. Now, I feel like it sounds like I shit on Boomy in general in this video, but these pros are pros. Like, if there's not a Druid in the group, the verse buff is huge, and the util kit is pretty insane. If they're playing a group that has, like a Ret Paladin or something that has like a lot of prio, be a pretty good fit. But if they're playing like Unholy DK Og, like, it can still work, but there's no prio, like, or there's very little prio in my opinion. So if you guys have any questions, if you have any comments or anything you'd like to add to this, anything that maybe you found either playing Boomy or playing with Boomies or whatever it is, please let me know. Let me know if I missed anything, or if maybe you're playing with a Boomy or you're playing as a Boomy and you found a comp that fits better than the ones I mentioned. Just let me know. But as usual, appreciate you guys for watching the video. Drop a comment, a like, and subscribe if you liked it, and join my Discord. Message me there if you have any questions, because I'm more likely and more prone to responding quicker on there. But again, to the next one, hope you guys have a great one. Peace.